A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis today, 17 November 2025. I am Saumya. The idea is to have a thorough discussion, interaction, exchange of viewpoints on the Hindu newspaper New Delhi edition. That's for 17 November 2025, from where you and I will pick up all the UPSC relevant articles for the day. Okay? So not only shall we see the editorial articles here, but also all the other articles that are relevant for the exam. And if you can see your screen here, we have about 8 articles from today's newspaper. The first 3 articles, rather the first 4 articles are all editorial page articles today. Yes, we have picked up almost all the editorials. And then you have quick prelims oriented articles. And before I can start, let me quickly wish a warm good morning to Sita Ram, the first one to join us today, Shikha, Eric, Neelam, aspirant. We have Iba, Saurav, Kuldeep, and Reshma. So, as other students of mine keep joining, let's quickly analyze the news articles one by one. And good morning, Ramu. And once again, thank you so much, all of you, for making the Saturday event very successful. And it was amazing to have all of you there. And those who could not attend, here's a reminder Saturday we had taken at 4 p.m. the current affairs PYQ and MCQ class. And we shall continue this initiative also. Okay, we will keep continuing that. So keep joining in during the weekends, because now that prelims is around the corner, it's a good time to be very thorough with the revision of all the current events. Okay, very good morning, Urupam. Yeah, you can have a look. That's not a problem at all. But in that case, if you have any doubt, if you have any question from Sunday edition, then I can bring those to you. Usually, I try to cover all the news on Monday as well. But still, if you have time, you can do that definitely. Oh, very good morning there. Makumba, Maktumba. Good morning, dear. Kojumba, good morning. Okay, wonderful. Good morning, Dipesh. I saw you now. All right, then let's start with today's discussion. Okay, the first 4 articles are editorial. The first article is editorial, and what does it say? This is page number 6, of course. Good morning, Vikash dear. Delhi's air a wicked problem in need of a bold solution. So once again, we are talking about the air pollution in Delhi, because recently we saw how the air pollution has now breached about 360, 400, 450 mark on the air quality index. And that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. It comes under the severe to extreme category. And that's exactly why this article, written by none other than Lok Sabha member Shashi Tharoor, known for his language and prolific use of words, the article, in a very simple way, of course, today tries to say what are the causes behind Delhi pollution? Is there a solution that is possible? And what is the role of public engagement? How can citizens participate in controlling this pollution, which is responsible for killing so many people every year? It is also responsible for making people sick, severely sick, especially respiratory illness is on the rise in India. New Delhi is being counted as one of the most polluted cities in the world today. That's the situation. And therefore, Mr. Tharoor says the Delhi pollution is a wicked problem. A wicked means it's a very nasty problem. It's an evil problem. Evil because it's very complicated in nature. So now let's have a look at the article point by point and then a question. Good morning, Tapesh. You will get the PDFs also here only in the description box. Good morning, Aman. Very good morning, Mumtaz. Happy to see you. Good morning, Shikha. Okay, let's start now. So the article says Delhi, the national capital region of Delhi. Every winter season comes the winter season, and we are seeing that Delhi's severe air pollution, AQI, air quality index, is in the severe category. This acute air pollution in Delhi is a chronic public health, and it also shows a governance failure. Definitely, it's about the failure of the government. It is about a seasonal nuisance. Today, it has become a seasonal nuisance, an evil problem that starts from October, and then it is there all the way up to February. About 4 5 months, entire Delhi NCR is enveloped like an envelope. It is clouded by thick smog. That's the cloud cover, that's the pollution, plus that is the fog in the air, creating a thick envelope around city. It's extremely dangerous because citizens are not getting any fresh air to breathe. These episodes keep on repeating from October to February. Air quality index is often breaching 400 mark, very very common. Schools are then closed, public transportation is disrupted. Plus it also has a long-term health burden on the government of India because long-term exposure to particulate matter 2.5, when you are exposed to PM 2.5 for a long time, you start experiencing a low life expectancy. There was a recent report by the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, which said people in Delhi NCR, in the long term, if they are exposed to particulate matter 2.5, they may experience a reduction in their lifespan by 8 to 9 years. That means people's longevity, their life expectancy will now get reduced. A dangerous problem. Apart from that, it is also reduced to respiratory and cardiovascular disease, cognitive and development outcomes among children. So you see, it is a massive crisis. What are the economic and social impact of these problems? Looking at the health impact. Now, people are experiencing asthma. People are experiencing bronchitis, a swelling and inflammation of the bronchi of the lungs. Yes, they are getting inflamed because of the toxins that people are breathing. At the same time, it also relates to COPD, a chronic breathing difficulty problem. It is related to lung infections. Particulate matter 2.5 is very small, unlike particulate matter 10 that is more coarse and slightly bigger in size. PM 2.5 is very, very small, very small. Because it is very small, you breathe it. It is also impacting your eye. Your ocular distress also increases. Your skin is getting impacted, and when you breathe it, what happens to you? It goes in your bloodstream. And now, something that's going in your bloodstream will give you a higher risk of a heart attack. It may lead to more deposition in the coronal arteries. It may also lead to strokes. It could lead to hypertension, therefore. Why hypertension? What is a high blood pressure problem? Systolic blood pressure? It's basic common sense. We all say it happens because of old age. Not always. Not always. Now, when the body is experiencing an obstruction, imagine if your arteries are facing some kind of blockage or obstruction. What happens then? In that case, will the blood not try to flow faster? It's natural. There's a pipe, you put a blockage there. Naturally, the water will start getting coagulated, deposited. And then how to clean it up? You will have to push in water with a faster speed. Same thing happens in body. As a part of coping mechanism, body will increase the rate at which the blood flows. When it becomes too much, obviously people become prone to chronic hypertension, longer term high blood pressure. The speed at which the blood is now getting, thrusted across the veins, arteries, that becomes very, very strong. At the same time, it will also lead to oxidative stress in the body. In the long term, DNA damage, cognitive decline, mental health issues, some various allergies and autoimmune problems also. And when all these diseases increase, it will lead to a loss of productivity. Loss of productivity means more anxiety, more depression. So definitely more pollution will have a psychological as well as a physiological impact. Look at the social impact of that. We all know India is not a country where people are equal. No, it doesn't happen like that. There is a great social income inequality. Because of that, it is always the vulnerable communities who will face a bigger brunt of the pollution. What do I mean by vulnerable? I mean the elderly people, geriatric above 60, the young children under 5, you have pregnant women, people who are victims of disabilities, people who are the refugees and the slum dwellers, and those people who are working on the road, vendors, informal sector employees, those who cannot afford either to relocate or who cannot afford to sit inside AC or air purifier. These are the people who are mostly impacted by these problems. And then also the EWS category, people who are in general poor. Why? Because those who are poor will not be able to get secondary and tertiary health care. They cannot access a good pulmonologist, a lung specialist. It's not easy for them. So naturally what happens? They will suffer much more as compared to others. What are the economic impact? A higher healthcare cost. Even after COVID pandemic, even now, India has not been able to allocate 5% of our GDP into healthcare. And today, this much high air pollution will create more kind of non-communicable disease burden, a high burden on the government. Who will pay the price? Does the government have the amount of fund and money to pay up for all this? No. So, which means today 1.36% of India's GDP is getting wasted into premature death. It is getting wasted into lost labor productivity and direct healthcare cost. And how much is that in terms of numbers? In terms of numbers, we are wasting about US dollar 36.8 billion per year. That is per annum. And where are we wasting it? All this is getting leaked out from the GDP into the number of young death, premature death. Now you know that India is a young country. We know average Indian is 28 years. We know we experience a youth bulge. What's the point of having a youth bulge? If people die early or they become chronically sick, that's the question. Now, $36.8 billion is a small number. In reality, the cost that we pay every year is way more. At the same time, it also reduces tourism. Why will people come to India to breathe this kind of an air? It will also reduce the trust that people have in the government. It leads to a trust deficiency. On Friday, I was discussing with you about Zohran Mamdani. I spoke to you about NDA's victory in Bihar. I said that the whole world right now is obsessed about welfare politics. Most of the parties are winning the election when they are able to do some welfare for people, owing to rising poverty rates across the world. But don't you think taking care of environment and providing a clean air is also a part of welfare? Welfare is not just about ladies empowerment, Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar or Manrega or Janani Suraksha. It's much more than that. It's about Article 21 that comes in the picture every time. Article 21, the right to life. Definitely, it includes the right to breathe a clean air. So that's why it is as much a part of welfare policy. If the environment is not clean, people are not going to trust the government at all. And now, if you look at why does Delhi experience this problem, you can divide the causes into local causes and economic social causes. Let's look at the local causes first. As somebody said, who said that? Okay, Kuldeep is mentioning about agriculture. Yes, that's right. One of the biggest local cause behind this air pollution in Delhi is stubble burning. Stubble burning in Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and in and around Delhi. Why does this happen? Indian farmers are mostly low income farmers, they are poor farmers. They strictly depend upon three cycles in the year: Kharif, Rabi, Zaid. Zaid is very regional. Zaid crops like watermelon, cucumber, they will not grow everywhere equally. So mostly farmers will depend on to Kharif and Rabi. Now during the time when Delhi pollution actually is very high, that's October to November, that's also the time when rice, the staple Kharif crop in India, is about to be harvested. And the farmers do not get much time. They get a time of 10 to 15 days, 2 weeks only, to cut the kharif, harvest it, and sow the rabi. That's the winter crop. Wheat, barley, rapeseed, mustard, all of that is now to be grown. Where is the time? 2 weeks only. The farmers are in a hurry to cut all the kharif, and what will they do with the leftover residue? What will they do with the stock of the kharif that is remaining behind, with the straw? How to dispose that? It is very expensive to dispose it in a very scientific, technical manner. In India, farmers are poor. They don't have technology like the farmers of the West, like Happy Seeder. Happy Seeder is a machine. You put the straw there, it gets automatically destroyed. Our farmers can't afford that. Most of them can't. It's very expensive. What do? In a hurry, in a quick decision to finish everything and start growing rabi, they resort to burning it. Majority of them, it's burnt like a stubble waste. And that leads to acute air pollution that spreads across entire NCR. It's a thick layer of pollution. Yes, that's one reason. Another reason is that emission from power plants. Now, we have already discussed in one of the Hindu articles that despite the fact, Vikash and Dipesh have told us multiple times, I think, 50% of India's installed capacity in energy, right from July 2025 onwards is luckily coming from non-fossil fuel. We know that, non-fossil fuel. But what about the remaining 50? There is a major component of coal power plant that still is in use. Apart from that, all the electricity that comes from solar and hydro, it's not stable. Wind energy and solar energy are very seasonal. It depends on the weather. We don't have grid stability over there. It fluctuates a lot. So therefore, people still depend on conventional coal-powered plants. That's where we get majority electricity supply from. And that also creates a lot of pollution. It creates a lot of smoky, carbon dioxide laced air. Then, in and around NCR, you have brick kilns. What are brick kilns? Bricks are used in construction. Brick kilns are the small factories and setups that make these concrete bricks from soil. Now, it's a very useful industry, I'm not denying that. But there are two very dangerous things about this industry. One, it is only dependent on child labor. And second, it creates a lot of pollution when you try to mix the soil up and create the brick out of that. So that's a major contributor also. Now look at the geographical factors here. Now, Delhi has a very basin kind of topography. Delhi is situated in a place where it becomes like a small basin. And it experiences a phenomena of temperature inversion. What does it experience? Temperature inversion. Let me write it down quickly. Temperature inversion. I'll just come to the comments from my lovely students. Let me quickly finish this. Geographical reason. From October to November, January, temperature inversion takes place. And what do I mean by that? By temperature inversion, we mean that under normal circumstances, what happens? Warm air will always rise. Yes, the warm air is light. Hot air will always rise. And it will be replaced by the cool air that is moisture rich and therefore it's heavier, it's more dense. It will slide down below that. That's the normal situation. Now, when this warm air rises in a normal situation, it also takes various pollutants with it in the upper layers of the atmosphere. The lower region becomes clean. And then as they go up, the pollutants also start dispersing in the air, right? But during winter in North India, the opposite phenomena is happening. Temperature inversion starts happening. Now what happens? A layer of warm air is permanently situated on top of the cold air that is in the ground. This inverts the process because now what happens? Normally, it is the air that is warm should go up, but here it is not happening. Absolutely, that's correct, Kuldeep. Very good, that's temperature inversion. So now the warm air constantly sits like a blanket on top of the cold air. And this completely inverts the normal temperature cycle. So that is the problem here. If there is a layer of warm air, it doesn't allow the cold air on the ground to rise up. If it doesn't rise, it doesn't carry all the pollution with it in the upper layers. The pollution keeps on hanging here only. It keeps on hanging near the ground and people have to breathe that. There is no change. That's the phenomena in the winter season and that keeps happening. Now cold air is heavy. It should slowly become, it should be deposited in the lower layer because it's very heavy. It is full of moisture. But now what is happening? It becomes so heavy, not just because of moisture, but because of pollution that it gets trapped over there. If it tries to go up, the warm air is like a blanket. It doesn't allow it to go up. It is constantly trapped in that place like a lid. And then what happens? Not only is there more fog, more mist, there is more pollution. High temperature will also happen. At the same time, the worst part is that the cold air will never rise. Everything that is dirty in that. Particulate matter 2.510. Smoke, vehicle emission, small fragments like dust and soot, industrial pollution from factories, everything gets deposited there only. And then that's exactly what people in the Delhi NCR have to breathe. This air is thick, this air is stagnant, and this air is highly chemically polluted. No wonder even the vision is not clear. You see, there is a constant presence of smog. You can actually see and sometimes feel that smog. It leads to various kind of bodily reactions in people. And that's the reason behind it. Because Delhi's topography creates that kind of temperature inversion. That's why the writer Mr. Shashi Tharoor is saying it's a wicked problem. It's a wicked problem because although it is seasonal, October to February, but that's also the time we celebrate Diwali. That's also the time of stubble burning. That's also the time when it is a winter break time, the Dashera break time. People travel a lot. In general, it becomes a situation where you cannot reduce any polluting factor at all. Transport, industry, waste, technology, everything comes together during the same season. And then what happens? It becomes expensive for the government also. We already know that central and state pollution control boards in India still lack infrastructure. They have machines, they have manpower, but they are not very trained. At the same time, their sensors are very badly located. Sometimes they are behind the tree, sometimes they are highly at the elevation. They don't capture the ground reality at all. Can we learn something from other countries? Yes. We can learn a lesson from London. In London, they have created dedicated low emission and ultra low emission zones. If there is any breach of emission in this area, people are charged a very heavy fee. Public transport, including buses and trams, are also made to abide by emission protocols. There is a retrofitting in buildings that senses immediately if there is a pollution around. Los Angeles, US is a good example. Vehicle emission norms are very strict here. At the same time, fuel standards are also implemented by coordination from one district to another. China, Beijing. China follows a multi year program where all the heavy polluting industries have been relocated to the outskirts of the city, and coal usage in the city has been completely banned, especially in the residential areas. Strict industrial controls, real time monitoring that happens once in every 4 days. That has resulted in a great reduction in particulate matter 2.5. In India, can we have a similar solution? Yes. We can have a small term, medium term, long term solution. What's the small term solution? Emergency response. That should happen on a seasonal basis, October to February. Recently, the government is spraying cold mist everywhere, water everywhere, but that gives a very temporary relief only. What we can do? We can actually strengthen the CQAM. We can strengthen the AQI measurements, stop the travel and stop the usage of old diesel trucks. Perhaps the odd even concept should be introduced once again. Targeted bans in residential area, anti-stubble burning drives, real-time transparent monitoring standards by central pollution control boards, free free mask, double layer mask, N95 mask, all these to be provided to the vulnerable groups for free. A better control on open waste burning. Waste burning also leads to pollution. In India, landfills are a major cause of pollution and we have to control that. We have to recommend to the municipalities to go for a thorough cleaning drive, not burning the waste, dumping it logically in the landfills designated for that. At the same time, if you look at medium term solution, 2 to 6 years, let's use unified air shed management plan. That's an idea given by the writer. Let's write it down. It's a medium term solution. Let's make a unified air shed management plan. That's what the writer says. Unified air shed management plan for Delhi NCR. How does that work? Create entire Delhi as a single non-pollution zone. On a very, very quick speed, electrify all the transport. 2 days before Supreme Court told the government of Delhi to encourage more electronic vehicle, and the Chief Minister of Delhi has recently announced many more electric buses. Do that in a real time basis. Electrify mandatory all transport. Same time, also create last minute connectivity. Having metros and electric buses sometimes still is not able to convince people to use public transport. So create door to door electric connectivity. Small auto rickshaws, small e-rickshaws, everything that can create a last minute electricity based mobility. At the same time, retrofitting public sector buildings. Create them to adapt to pollution by having high quality sensors. Give subsidy on rooftop solar installations to adopt solar energy. Give subsidies. Give subsidies to farmers so that they can buy machines like the Happy Seeder. Happy Seeder is a good machine. Happy Seeder, in situ decomposer. All these will be able to burn the paddy straw, the rice straw, immediately without leaving any need for you to burn that. Please provide biomass supply chain, a cleaner energy version. At the same time, tighter inspections of brick kilns, industries, factories, all of which create pollution. Now, all these are small and medium terms. Do we have something for the long term? Yes. According to the author, long term change cannot happen unless you change your heart. So, at the school level, at the college level, university level, create propaganda, make health camps mandatory, force medical students to have health camps in which they can demonstrate the kind of effect pollution has on people. Tell them you will lose 10 years of their life if you do not adopt community friendly measures to combat pollution. Have an urban planning where you grow more trees, where you encourage rainwater harvesting to mitigate the effect of urban heat island. Create rooftop gardens, balcony based gardens. That's very important. Encourage people to ride a bicycle or to walk. Have more cyclothons, marathons with this intention in mind. And at the same time, also encourage citizens in their house, they can start reducing the waste. Properly, this thing at the very source, segregate that waste, use vegetable gardens. All that is important. To make the unified airshed management in Delhi, we can empower region wide emission limits. In Delhi, a fixed level of emission beyond that to be punished by the government. Adequate data collection by central and state pollution control boards. Yes, involving other teams from the central government to create data models to predict how much is the pollution going to rise in the coming few months? Judicial oversight. All these together. Encouraging carbon financing for private companies based in Delhi. If they reduce their emission, give them a tax benefit. If they reduce their emission, allow them to sell that in the carbon market and make money. Now, these are the only ways in the long term we can reach out to clean technology, electronic vehicle, sustainable urbanization, citizen involvement. Today, there is a lot of political party controversy. Opposition is blaming the government. But no matter which government is in the power, ultimately it's about making clean energy related every bit to Article 21, the right to life itself. A fundamental duty and a DPSP. That's the need of the hour. Okay, so that's what the article says. Now I'll show you the question, and before that, I have to come back to the comments. That's completely fine. Good morning, Sumedh. Welcome. Yes, Kojumba, that's correct. High temperature, low temperature belt. Yes. Yes, Saurav, that's correct. Kuldeep, that's a logical statement that you've made there. And thank you so much, Shikha. That's extremely kind of you, my dear. I'm always there with you. Yes, Eric, it all starts with Article 21. Ramesh, good morning. That's true, Vikash. Spending in PHC, public health centers. Very good. Now the question. Consider the following statements regarding Delhi's winter air pollution crisis. 1. Temperature inversion during winter months traps the pollution near the ground, preventing their vertical dispersion. Vertical mean upwards. Dispersion is spreading. 2. Construction dust and road dust together account for a significant share of particulate matter 2.5 in Delhi NCR. 3. Stubble burning in neighboring states is the primary year-round source of Delhi's pollution. As most of my students are answering D, I would request them to read the third statement a little more carefully. Stubble burning in the neighboring states is the primary year-round. Year-round means perennial, something that happens around the year, all 12 months a year. Is stubble burning a perennial problem in Delhi? Is festival a perennial problem? There is a difference between perennial chronic problems and acute short-term problems. Looking at Delhi's pollution, if you look at long-term chronic problems that happened across the year, perennial, those are construction vehicle, brick kilns factories. But if you look at seasonal problems that are acute, that spike in a few months, it's temperature inversion and winter. It is stubble burning. It's the festival and travel season. Yes, that's why which will be the right answer then? Third cannot be correct, right? Right? It's not a year-round source, it's a seasonal source of pollution. We all know that stubble burning is about the Kharif crop season in India. The crop season that comes to harvesting in September, October. Immediately after that, the Rabi season starts in India. Now there is another important geographical phenomena. Yes. Okay, no problem. Yes, it is subject to misinterpretation. Absolutely, that I agree. Possibly third statement can be misinterpreted by most readers. I will agree there, definitely. Because it can be interpreted as it happens every year. So yes, it happens every year. That way you've interpreted correctly. That's good. But here it's saying year-round source. That means it happens 12 months a year, which is not the case. It is a seasonal problem. So then only B will be the answer. The first two statements are correct. So really well done there. Ramu, Dishank, Aman, Saurav, Aspirant, Dipesh, Ramesh, Kuldeep, Reshma, Eric, Iba, that's correct. Kojumba, Mumtaz, correct. Yes, aspirant, that's valid. Very good. Now you've understood, okay? So now it's because of stubble burning after Rabi harvesting. Quickly, next article, page number 6 for you, editorial again. Too little, much later. What does it say? Too little, much later. Now, today, tomorrow, and day after, please be mentally prepared, bacha. We are going to talk about digital the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill. Everybody will talk to you about that. Only all UPSC channels, all the teachers. Why? Because it is in the news right now. Everybody will talk about that. So that's the article also. Article is highlighting that how recently the government has notified in November 2025 the new rules and the implementation of the Digital Personal Data Protection Rules. We call it as the DPDP rules. Do not get confused with DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. We are talking about DPDP. Yes, Digital Personal Data Protection, an act that was passed by the government in 2023. Since then, it was under consideration. Yes, Sitaram, it was criticized by everybody, by corporate, by citizens, by opposition parties, and by critics. Everybody criticized it. Let's examine why was it criticized. And today in 2025 November, when the government has notified that now it will be implemented after a long delay, it will be finally implemented. Still, people are having a problem with that. Let me quickly explain you what is this and what are the problems that we are going to look into. So, how did the whole idea start of DPDP? Why do we need a DPDP? It started from 2017. Yes, it started from 2017. The very famous case in the Supreme Court of India called the Puttaswamy case. Very good, Ramu. Absolutely. The Digital Personal and Data Protection Act 2023. Beautiful. That's the topic. Yes. So 2017 Supreme Court had a very famous court case named as the Puttaswamy versus Union of India case. Very famous case. This case is also called as the right to privacy case. What is it known as? Never forget, please. Right to privacy case. Very important for GS paper 2. Very important. Polity and governance. Prelims and mains both. Very good, Dipesh. Right to privacy. Puttaswamy case. In this case, the Supreme Court said privacy is a fundamental right. That's a very big thing Supreme Court said. Yes, Ramu, absolutely. Right to privacy is a fundamental right of Indian citizens. Now, from there, the whole debate started. After that, in 2018 to 2023, multiple data draft policies were created. Multiple bills were passed, but all of them were withdrawn. None of the bill could actually become a law. Finally, in 2023, the government took a very tough stand and the parliament initiated the DPDP Act, as Ramu was mentioning. The DPDP Act was finally passed. Today, in 2023, finally, it simplified earlier existing drafts and gave big exemptions to government agencies, and that's where the problem starts. Comes DPDP 2023, problem starts. Very good morning, Sanghamitra Bacha. Good morning. As soon as it comes, problem starts. Why the problem starts? Because now 2023 DPDP is passed. Under DPDP, there is a limitation to the data that people can ask from the government. Why? Because already we speak about a very famous act in India, and that is called Right to Information. Right to information. We all have spoken about a small place in Rajasthan called Bivar. We have spoken about it. From Rajasthan, Bivar, the concept of Jan Sunwai, public representatives sitting and talking to public directly, addressing their grievances, began the concept of Jan Sunwai. Rajasthan became the first state to pass its own kind of right to information long back in 2000 itself, before India passed the law, right to information in 2005. That means every citizen of India will have a right to all the data and all the information in public interest. Same rights that the parliamentary members have to know about various policies and data of the government, unless it is about national security, unless it comes under Official Secrecies Act, then it is a different thing. Apart from that, people can request for any clarification. Much recently, last year, there was a big debate about State Bank of India, electoral bonds issued by private companies to finance political parties. Then also same issue became popular. Right to information. Finally, the State Bank of India said, the Supreme Court told the bank that you have to declare on your website every money that has been contributed into political parties fund by various companies in India. That is valid only. Yes, because in India we believe in right to information. Yes, data fiduciaries, absolutely, Eric. We have to give data to public. Public has a right to know. But as soon as DPDP came 2023, it started shrinking the importance of right to information day by day, because today in November, as they are being implemented, the DPDP Act is trying to weaken the transparency that is provided under Right to Information 2005 in a major way. Why does it do that? Point number one. In this new Act DPDP, there is a delay of key protections until 2027. How does that work? See, under DPDP, there is a protocol that all the private companies, whether it's Google, whether it's Twitter, whether it's your Facebook, or whether it's your whatever company that may be, Instagram or any other social platform, all these, and also e-commerce websites, they take so much data from the public. Your data, my data, everybody's data is with them. Age, gender, residence, preference, everything. Now, there is a protocol in DPDP that if a citizen wants, if you and I want, we can either modify or take back the data that we have submitted with all these companies, all these platforms. It's our wish. Similarly, there is also a protocol that after a certain period of time, all these platforms and companies will also have to remove the data that they have from the common people. Besides, they cannot take data from a child. A child's data is not subject to being commercialized until really valid reasons exist for that. They are not supposed to be done. But the new DPDP notification is not trying to do justice with all this. Why? Because although privacy is a constitutional right, most of the companies have been given a deadline for 12 to 18 months to implement this act. And what do you mean? When you give a company 12 to 18 months, you are giving them almost 1.5 to 2 years to implement the act. Is that good? Whether it's Google, Meta, Amazon, you have given them 2 years to implement the DPDP Act. It doesn't make any sense, because for them it will only be implemented from 2027. Until then, there are so many complaints coming from the users regarding their data being stolen, their data being not deleted despite demanded, their data being subject to abuse. So many grievances from public are pending, but these companies have a right to engage with them till 2027. They have a free time period. Is that a good thing to do? No. Second, companies like Google, Meta, Amazon are getting 2 years compliance periods when already they knew about what was going to happen since 2023. Is that good? That means citizens' privacy, your and my privacy, is still vulnerable for 2 years to come. It is subject to AI, it is subject to deepfake, it is subject to synthetic data and commercialization. That is an immediate weakness of this act. Second problem, although on paper it says that it is only meant to protect the privacy of people, but it also tries to weaken the right to information protocols. Because public information officers, now under Right to Information Act, you have public information officers, people who are in charge of releasing the information from the government to the public. But these people will now be able to reject any demand for information. They will not disclose. And they will say, no, I cannot disclose because it is personal information. I will not disclose it. Until a specific law forces them, unless a court order is there, they will not release that information easily. They will say, no, it is against the privacy of people. I'm not going to tell you that. It is a complete change from earlier Right to Information Act, where personal information was disclosed. If it was related to public duties, if it was related to corruption, if it was related to misuse of public office or larger public interest, then any information should be revealed to the public, because what Parliament should know, public should also know. But today, the amended new DPDP Act is trying to cancel all that. Very, very good. Very, very good, Reshma and Mumtaz. Yes, Section 8J of the RTI Act. Beautifully said. That we have already discussed earlier. Very good. That's in question right now. So now you can say, I am not going to give the information as a public information officer. And that defeats the purpose of RTI. This amendment is making information about public servants personal information. It says information from a public servant is also a personal information. And now we are not going to share that. For example, salary records, transfer orders, assets of public servants, all of that will now be hidden, saying that it is under DPDP Act. So we will not release it under RTI Act. How will that matter? One, for private companies, you have given them 2 years period. For public, you have made a fool out of them by saying that salary, transfer, records, nothing can be disclosed to the public because all that is personal. It is about a sword that has 2 edges. It's like a knife with 2 edges. It will cut from either side. One, no punishment given to private companies. They can merrily steal the data and use that for 2 more years. Second, you are also cutting the fate of the public by not disclosing information related to public servants. It is a cruel act, therefore. Third problem, under the new DPDP rules, 2025, we are creating a separate body called Data Protection Board of India. What body am I talking about? Be very careful with that. Data Protection Board of India, DPBI. Remember, DPBI. But it is not an independent body at all. It is not independent. It will be placed directly under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, the mighty ministry. It will work under that. Most of the staff members here will be appointed and removed by the government ministers. It creates a conflict of interest. Look at the funny situation today. The same ministry that is trying to promote big companies in India, foreign direct investment, portfolio investment, Google, Meta, Amazon, the same ministry will now investigate on the data violations committed by these companies. Is that not a joke? I am the ministry. I want to promote more and more IT in India. I am only giving a push to all these companies, Google, Meta, Amazon. Now, I am only investigating the complaints of data stealing, commercial abuse of data done by these companies. Where is transparency here? Tell me. At the same time, government departments will be easily getting an exemption, saying that no, any information from public servant cannot be disclosed to people because it is about the privacy of that government servant. So it means same government will also implement the act, same government will also regulate the act, same government will also report the act. Where is transparency here? It's a zero transparency. It gives a credibility mistrust among people. It's a deficit of trust. Now look at citizens. What is the mistake of citizens? Technology companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, they are handling sensitive data from Indians, you and me. They know everything about where we live, what we consume, what's our broad income level, what about the gender, how many people. They know everything in one particular family. It is all sensitive data, including photos and videos as well, including deepest chats as well that we do. Yes, on paper they are encrypted, but in reality they can be taken by using technology from the right people, from the right departments. Where is our data safe? It's not safe. And all these big tech companies are not Indian companies. Let's remember, they are all coming from America, EU, and they have our personal data, our private data. That's a sensitive data, right? But now giving them 2 more years to implement the act is making the compliance requirements weak. There is hardly any compliance. They are having to face very lenient obligations now. And therefore, they will definitely do anything they want with our data. Very unlike countries of the European Union, where there is so much strictness in the EU that not even 1% of data from the public taken by the companies within EU is allowed to leak outside EU. But in India, it's not like that. Let alone adult data. Child data is also stolen very easily, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, both ways it's a loss to us. Citizens are not getting transparency because they say that it is a Data Protection Act. It is about right to privacy, fundamental right, Article 21. But for us, it is loss situation. And what about the companies? Companies can keep on exploiting our data. So now it is a very difficult situation. So the article says RTI, so far the Right to Information Act was the pillar of Indian democracy. From 2005 onwards, it not only gave Indian citizens the same power as that of ministers, they gave them a right to participate actively in the government. Now that's the real big problem, that it is not going to happen anymore. Anybody can deny you the right to have any public information, and therefore RTI stands diluted. Plus, the body that you have created, Data Protection Board, it is also a part of the ministry itself. It will never do independent investigations. At the same time, if the public information officer tries to exceed their responsibility, if they act in the interest of public and actually give an information, later they may have to fine up to rupees crores and lakhs in case it is found that the information could be protected under the DPDP Act. So they will also not do their duties properly. So the problem is that it is a very poorly drafted and a very poorly timed politics, because recently the rules were released on the Bihar election assembly day. The day Bihar concluded its assembly election, that is the day when these rules were also notified. DPDP rules 2025. Public is saying, deliberately, why did you release it on that day? Deliberately, why did you release it on the day the elections results were being announced? Is that not a politically motivated move? How should we understand that then? That's the basic question. So quickly see the question here. In the meantime, let me come to the comments. Yes, Ramu, that's correct. And at the same time, what you're saying, Ramu, is also valid. Transparency is a double-edged sword. It is, yes, absolutely beautifully said. GS paper 4 ethics, correct. And yes, Mumtaz, there is another problem that there are so many vacancies. Many states do not even have state information officer. Very good. That's correct. Reshma said that. Okay. Load of vacancies are there. Yes. Yes, Mumtaz. That is also valid. The 72 hours thing. Very good. Question. Consider the following statements regarding the DPDP Act 2023 and the DPDP Rules 2025. 1. The DPDP Rules 25 delay the implementation of most key user protection provisions to 2027. 2. Under the new rules, public information officers can reject request of any personal information except what is mandated for disclosure by other laws. And 3. The DPBI is established as an independent statutory authority outside the control of any ministry. Dipesh, Reshma started, Sitaram, Saurav, Ramu, Kuldeep is there. Mumtaz has answered, aspirant has answered, and everybody is saying third is not correct because, as somebody, Reshma clarifies, because it is not independent, it is working under the mighty ministry. And then comes Iba and Eric, and everybody say it's A, and definitely it's A. Very good. First two statements are indeed correct. Very good. Absolutely Kojumba Mumtaz. If there's any doubt, please ask. I can definitely repeat the article because it's in the news right now. DPDP Act 2023, DPDP Notification Rules 2025. Next article, again editorial, page number 6. The POCSO Act is a gender neutral act by design. Very good, Vikash. Username, mighty ministry, very good. What does it say? The POCSO Act is a gender neutral act by design. A very good topic, GS paper 2 and GS paper 1. It is a social issue as well as it is about vulnerable communities, including women and children, abuse against them. What does this article say? The article is taking a very unconventional perspective. Article says that a lot of people believe that under POCSO Act that tries to prevent children from sexual offences 2012, majority number of time the person who has done the crime, the perpetrator of the crime is always a man and the victim is always a female. But that's not a reality. A sexual crime cannot be considered gendered in nature. It has no gender. The perpetrator can be a woman also, and the perpetrator can be a man also. It can be either way. All this is happening, yes, as the Supreme Court of India very recently, it issued a notice. It was a notice given to a petition in the case which says women can also be accused for sexual assault against minor. For example, a woman can definitely do a sexual abuse to a minor boy, a young age, underage boy. And therefore, under Section 3 of the POCSO Act 2012, it will still be considered a crime. Even if a woman has done that, there is no rule that only men can commit such crime. The petitioner said that, why are we saying that POCSO is related to a particular gender? It is not specific gender. Although the act is using the word he, but it doesn't mean it is only applicable to men. Here he means gender neutral. It could be a man, it could be a woman. Not only male perpetrators, it can be her also. It can be a female perpetrator also. And yes, women should be punished and prosecuted for any sexual violation of a child under the POCSO Act 2012, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences. Okay, so therefore in this article, Section 3 of the POCSO Act has come into notice because it questions that can a criminal or a perpetrator have a gender? Yes or no? So let's see what has happened really. Now, the Supreme Court of India recently was busy in issuing a notice. It issued a notice, and in that notice, it is clearly written that yes, POCSO is gender neutral. Ultimately, we have to agree that POCSO is gender neutral. It all happened as a woman was accused of violating a minor boy. So, the woman was accused of sexual assault of a minor boy under Section 3 of the POCSO Act, which is also very important for us. Section 3 of the POCSO Act 2012. The accusations say that the person who is accused, the lady who was accused for this kind of a crime, very shamelessly she has said that provision of the POCSO is gender specific and it should only be applicable to male perpetrators. Now that is a very shameful thing actually, coming from a woman. The lady who is accused of this sexual assault of a minor boy has very shamelessly said in the court that, why am I being punished? Under Section 3 of the POCSO, the word he is used. That he, the person who has done the crime, and he is the pronoun that you use for a man, and I am a woman. So why am I being blamed for it? But Section 13(1), there is another section here. Section 13, Clause 1 of the General Clauses Act 1897. This also comes to picture here. GS paper 2 also, polity and governance. Did you understand the main argument? Otherwise, I will repeat. Supreme Court was hearing a petition. Petition came from a woman who has been accused for a sexual crime. What did she do? She offended a minor boy. Later she is saying, POCSO Act Section 3 is using the word he in the law. That means I am a woman and woman is a she pronoun. So why should I be accused? But the government said, the court says, there is a Section 13(1) of the General Clause Act 1897 that clearly says that words that are used in the Constitution or the words that are used in various acts, where we use the pronoun he, is not only specific to a masculine gender, it will be considered as all-inclusive. It will also include the gender she, unless there is a specific law that clarifies that this provision is only applicable to men oblique women. If there is a clarification, it's fine. Otherwise, for all the legal interpretations, the word he will also be interpreted as the word she. That's the General Clause Act 1897, Section 13(1). So therefore, when there is no specification of restricted to her or restricted to him, definitely any human being who is making a child perform a sexual act, either with themselves or with any third person, they will be accused under POCSO, because the idea of POCSO is to prevent sexual abuse of children. Whether it's done by a man adult or whether it's done by any adult woman, that doesn't matter here. Section 3 also applies when a child is forced to engage in a sexual activity with a third person. That means even if a woman has forced a child, told a child, provoked a child, threatened a child to have any sexual act with a third party, a third person, for whatever purpose, then also it will be considered as a severe case of grave sexual assault under POCSO. What is the logic behind it? The logic behind creating POCSO is to ensure that under the Ministry of Women and Child Development, 2024, there was a statement that was issued which clearly said in the Lok Sabha in 2024 that POCSO is gender neutral. Similarly, there was 2019 Bill of Amendment called Objects and Reasons of 2019 Amendment Bill, which also confirmed that POCSO is gender neutral. A lot of people are saying that some people are arguing that gender neutrality applies only in the case of a child victim. Now, this is a very misinterpretation of the law. Some people are coming and saying that by saying that POCSO is gender neutral, whether in 2024 in Lok Sabha, whether under the General Clauses Act, here gender neutral means the victim, not the perpetrator. That's the argument here. The law is misinterpreted between the victim and the perpetrator of the crime. The perpetrator of the crime. People are arguing gender neutral means the victim can be a girl or a boy, but the perpetrator is a man only. Some people are arguing that also, that perpetrator or criminal is a man. Gender neutral means that the person, the child who has been assaulted, that can be a girl or a boy. That is gender neutrality. But this interpretation is wrong. It's extremely incorrect. Because gender neutrality extends to the victim. It can be a girl or a boy. It also extends to the perpetrator. It can be a man and a woman. There is no logic in having a gender to crime perpetration. It defeats the purpose of POCSO then. So many women are behind sexual abuses. How can we not bring them to books? This interpretation is faulty because when Parliament wants to create a gender specific law, the Parliament explains that clearly. A very good example I can give you, that's Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, that was earlier Indian Penal Code. A particular section under Indian Penal Code that is called Section 375 of IPC. Today under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, it is Section 63. Now many students are asking, sometimes they don't exactly remember translation from IPC to Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. In writing answers, will that cut marks? No, it will not. No, it will not. Just give the correct data. If you don't remember that IPC 37, IPC 375 was 63 of BNS, it's okay. Whatever you are quoting, quote correctly. Just remember the more important translations. That's it. Nothing to worry there. Okay? They do have. They do have. Yes, Eric, they do have. Now, coming back to this, IPC 375, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 63 is a very good example of gender specific law. Here, the government has clearly said that only men can commit rape on women. It's a very clear clarification here. Remember, very important GS paper 2. IPC 375, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita section 63. Only men can commit rape on women. But that's a gender specific law. Here they are writing only man. In the case of POCSO, we don't have any such law. Nothing like that. Gender is not using, POCSO is not using a gender specific language. POCSO says very, very clearly that any assault on a child is gender neutral, which means from the perpetrator side, from the victim of the abuse point of view. So at the same time, today we cannot be selective about the word. The Supreme Court set a major precedent in 2004, Sakshi versus Union of India case. This is 2004, Sakshi versus Union of India case. What is that case? Under that case, Supreme Court recognized that child sexual abuse includes multiple forms of abuse. It involves the abuse of trust, power, vulnerability of the child. It can occur irrespective of gender combinations. Any gender can perpetrate crime on any gender. The law should be open to accommodate various possibilities and categories. So the objective of POCSO to 2012 is to protect children from all forms of sexual abuse. It is not gender specific. At the same time, it is the victim who can be from any gender. It is the perpetrator also who can be from any gender. Male, female, third gender, transgender. It doesn't matter, there is one gender to the law. Okay, so quickly the quick question now. Consider the following statements regarding the POCSO Act 2012. 1. The POCSO Act uses broad definitions of sexual assault that includes acts that can be committed by both male and female perpetrators. 2. Section 13(1) of the General Clauses Act 1897 supports interpreting masculine pronouns in the POCSO Act to include women unless the context suggests otherwise. And 3. Parliament has explicitly stated in official documents that POCSO is a gender neutral word only for victims but not for perpetrators. Is that true? So which of these statements are valid then? Let's see who can answer. It's an easy one. Think. Okay, there comes the Dipesh's answer. Let's look at the first statement. Comes Reshma's username, Sitaram, Sumedh, Kojumba, Saurav, Sangamitra. What about Ramu and Vikash? They haven't answered the last question either. Are you still there? Okay. Aktopam, Sangamitra, Saurav, aspirant. Very good. Eric has answered. Dishank has answered. Aman has answered. Mumtaz has answered. Majority says it's A. But given my previous experiences, let me verify. Okay. Remember, Dipesh, what did you say? Verify, but be careful. Okay. Ramu has answered A. Rajneesh and Iba also. Ramesh also. Everybody is saying A. Okay, let me see the first one. POCSO says there is a broad definition that can be committed by both male and female. That's correct. One is correct. That means B can be eliminated. 2. Section 13(1) of the General Clauses Act interpreting, yes, that is also correct, unless specifically said. For example, in the case of Bharati Nyaya Sanhita, unless specifically said, it means both the gender. Correct. Third is absolutely opposite of the truth. Parliament has never said that. Parliament says POCSO is gender neutral for both, victim also, perpetrator also. So absolutely A is correct. So that's beautifully answered. Very good. Dipesh has answered, Kuldeep also. Trust but verify. Yes, and I did exactly that. See, I did exactly what you said. Okay, so next article. Very, very good, everyone. Beautifully answered. Not on the paper, not exactly officially. Not exactly officially. Okay, not exactly officially. 100% sure. That's very good, Sanghamitra. That's exactly what I want. Whenever you know the answer, whenever you understand the answer, only then I believe that you have understood the article. Otherwise, we cannot answer, naturally. Okay, the last article from editorial page. Yes, I agree there. I will verify now. Yes, sir. Okay, next article. Swing but do not miss. What are we talking about? We are talking about GS paper 3, health and nutrition. Yes, health and nutrition. We are talking about TB, tuberculosis, a very dangerous bacterial disease. Yes, contagious also, but at the same time leads to a high mortality rate. There is a treatment for it. But most of the times nowadays, the treatment is not becoming successful. What is happening? Let me quickly explain. You and I have discussed multiple times about AMR, antimicrobial resistance. The new phenomena where microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, and virus and various parasites, they have developed a kind of immunity. They have developed a kind of resistance against most famous antibiotics. And because of that, they do not die, no matter how strong antibiotic you give them. Why is this happening? We all know, because of self-medication, because of common use of antibiotics in dairy and the poultry sector, because it's becoming a part of the food chain and water cycle now. So yes, very good, Dipesh. So now they are becoming resistant. That's what we spoke about. Very good, Sitaram. That's what we spoke about. Yes, very recently. In this context, I had discussed with you a famous report called GLASS report. So if you get a question on prelims about GLASS report, remember the GLASS report spoke about AMR, antimicrobial resistance. Today, the same resistance is happening in TB also, as Dipesh and Sitaram are mentioning. Today, we have a new kind of TB called multiple drug resistant TB. TB itself has been a big burden on developing countries, particularly India. But after a lot of initiative, after the Nikshay Bharat Yojana, the government was finally able to reduce the TB rate in a big way. But now a new problem is coming. Yes, new problem is coming, Reshma. The new problem is that people who are taking medicines for TB, they don't complete the treatment. Sometimes they can't afford the medicine. Sometimes the medicine has side effects, very painful. They can't complete the treatment. Sometimes unnecessary people are using antibiotics for small viral infections. All that has resulted in the new variant of TB called the MDR-TB, a TB that is very resistant to the common antibiotics used to kill that TB, as Dishank and Dipesh said, the MDR-TB as well as the RR-TB. That's the biggest problem. So what is going on? Let's understand that there was a very famous report in 2025 called the World Health Organization Global TB Report. What was the report? Global TB Report. Under the Global TB Report, there was a mixed picture for India. Despite a lot of success, India still has not been able to meet its goal of eliminating TB by 2025. That goal has been missed by a thin margin. Why is all this happening? One, yes, very good. There is a sharp reduction in TB cases. India recorded the highest global TB decline, 21% reduction from 237 per lakh in 2015 to 187 per lakh people in 2024. Very good achievement. This shows progress in detection, treatment, technology, public awareness. There is also an improvement in mortality. Yes, Sitaram, very good. There is a reduction in mortality also. The number of people who died from TB has reduced from 28 lakhs in 2015 to 21 per lakh in 2024. Huge success. Although there is success, but 90% of the success has been able to be achieved because of TB bacteria that responds to the antibiotic. We are talking about success. Yes, 90% of success is coming from those TB cases that respond to drugs. These are known as drug sensitive TB. What is drug sensitive TB? A TB infection that reacts to the medicine. Somebody gets TB, they get antibiotic, now they are cured. That's a very good thing. But here the problem is, very good, Reshma, despite the TB Mukt Abhiyan, Nikshay Abhiyan, we cannot eliminate TB because 90% success was happening only because TB was responding to medication. Drug sensitive TB was there. Today there is a new challenge. The new challenge is that majority cases that we are experiencing right now are MDR TB, multiple drug resistant cases of TB, and that's the biggest crisis. Despite largest improvement in TB control, India still has the world's highest tuberculosis burden. India accounts for 25% of global TB cases. 1 in 4 TB cases in the world come from India. Remember this data. 25% TB cases globally, India. 1 in 4 TB cases in the world coming from India. India recorded maximum number of TB cases in 2024. Why is all this happening? Yes, of course it is MDR TB problem. What is MDR TB? MDR TB means a TB that is caused by a bacteria that is resistant to 2 or more of the most powerful drugs that we use to control TB. And most of them are the isoniazid. That's one most common drug that we use against TB. I will quickly jot it down here. One is the isoniazid drug. That's an antibiotic. And second that we use is the very famous one called rifampicin. Rifampicin. These are the true drugs. These are the first line drugs. The first line of treatment. Any victim who is suffering from TB, the first two medicines given by the doctor are isoniazid and rifampicin. Usually they get cured. Now it's not happening because the new MDR TB, multiple drug resistant TB, bacteria is not responding to either of these two medications. It's not responding. No wonder, unfortunately, India is also accounting today for 32% of the global MDR TB cases and RR TB cases. What are RR TB cases? TB cases that do not respond to rifampicin. And what are MDR? They don't respond either to isoniazid or rifampicin. They don't respond. What to do? How will you cure these patients now? Now let's understand MDR TB is the new challenge. Success rate is 77%, but still very, very low in reality. We have the highest burden right now of rifampicin resistant tuberculosis. The treatment is not only expensive because this is an expensive drug. The treatment will take much longer. And there is a difficulty in managing the symptoms also. Now, if these two kind of drugs, both of them are ineffective in the case of TB, then what to do? If TB will not be cured by these drugs, we will have to use a third line of treatment. And the third line of treatment is highly more expensive because usually TB will take 6 to 9 months if you use these two drugs, and it will be cured within 6 to 9 months. But the problem is, if both the drugs are failing to cure the bacteria, another treatment that we have to look for, the second and the third line treatment, that is not only more toxic, yes, very good, Dipesh. Those bacteria are even more, those antibiotics are even more difficult. They have worse side effects. They are more toxic to the body. They are very expensive. And they will take more than 2 years to show a result. Then in that case, what to do? What are the reasons behind new MDR TB? Drug resistant TB, incomplete irregular treatment, wrong prescription of drugs, poor quality of drugs, self-medication, over-medication. State-wise, Uttar Pradesh has the highest burden of TB today, followed by Maharashtra, Bihar. Whereas in Delhi also there is a very high prevalence of TB cases. Unfortunately, India missed the target of 2025 when it comes to TB elimination by 2025. We could not become TB mukt. We could not become TB free. India, therefore, now it has to create another self-advanced target for itself. That's the reality of today. And why did we miss the target? Because MDR TB is not responding to medicines. The cases are very, very high. People are still dying. There is a shortage of drugs of the second line treatment. They are very pricey, very difficult to produce them in a generic manner. In Saturday's class, I discussed the compulsory license with you, the patent versus generic drugs with you. Yes, India is the capital of the world, pharmacy of the global south, but only in generic medication. But second, third line antibiotics are still tough to be produced generically. Most of them are patented drugs actually, and many of them are still undergoing human clinical trials. We don't have such advanced bacterial solutions against problems like TB. That's the problem. At the same time, COVID-19 led to supply chain disruption. The drugs could not reach rural healthcare centers. There was a lack of diagnosis. Poverty and poor diet are also responsible for such a high level of mortality. Now, what has really been done so far? Today, we are saying we are using AI, machine learning, real-time surveillance, molecular diagnosis. New techniques have come like the CBNAAT technique, TrueNAT technique. All these tests for TB, they focus on rapidly detecting the disease and immediately providing some medicine for that. But the problem is what to do with drug resistance. The government also initiated the Nikshay Poshan Yojana. Nikshay Poshan was meant to provide 5,000 rupees per month to those poor people who were suffering from TB, understanding that undernutrition can also create side effects and weakness among people. Nowadays, there is a new therapy that's coming in the market that is called, as Dipesh mentioned, the BPLAM therapy. BPALM therapy, This is the new therapy that is a short form of 4 new kinds of antibiotics that need to be introduced to cure MDR-TB. What is the benefit? The BPALM is shorter. It cures people in a very short duration. No injections or IV drips are required. It is an oral tablet medication. The best thing is it targets various multiple drug resistant bacteria. It also cures rifampicin resistant, that is RR TB strains. Plus, it has lesser side effects. So, which medicines are therefore included under the BPALM? Let's quickly understand the new protocol, the new advanced treatment that's coming. One of the most famous drugs, let's say, that is being used is the bedaquiline drug. Okay, the bedaquiline drug. The purpose is it not only kills the TB bacteria immediately, even if the strain is resistant, it is still able to kill that. Then comes another one that stands for P because we are saying BP. So this is pretomanid. Pretomanid kills bacteria, the most dominant forms of bacteria, whether they are resistant or not. Then 3 is the linezolid. Linezolid is also a second line extreme therapy, but then that is used for MDR bacteria. And then last is a very famous one, you may have heard about it. This is the moxifloxacin. Moxifloxacin, that stands for the last M. Okay, so these 4 combinations are together called as the BPALM. This is the latest advanced medication that now should be used for TB. It is oral, it cures you quickly, therefore it's a good solution. That's very, very good because it's highly effective on TB patients. Within 6 months, you can see the results rather than conventional treatments that can take up to 2 years. So WHO is recommending in 2020 onwards for all the patients of MDR TB, it can be used successfully, and therefore India also plans to now use it very rapidly in the new upgraded National TB Elimination Program. What's the solution? What's the way forward? One, digitally recording all the cases of TB, especially a separate portal for MDR TB. Second, PPP, partnership with public and private spheres together. Partner with private research institutions to do more R&D about the effectiveness of all these drugs. At the same time, also community involvement, awareness at the rural level to promote quicker diagnosis so that the situation doesn't end up in an MDR1, and strictly making a voice against no self-medication. In India, the bigger problem is a gap in diagnosis. People are diagnosed very late, months after they are coughing or they are complaining body pain. They go for bone TB or lung TB diagnosis. By the time they are diagnosed, they are already in an advanced stage of TB. And that's when the bacteria also becomes resistant, because still then the patients keep on taking normal routine antibiotics, and that's not nice. It further gets worsened due to poverty, malnourishment. People are living in a crowded slum area. Majority of urban residents are all victims of urban poverty. They will live in slums. Now slums are overcrowded. No ventilation, no proper sanitation. Therefore, diseases like TB spreads faster. They spread really fast. At the same time, second line antibiotics are not even available easily in the Jan Aushadhi Kendra, public pharmacies. So therefore, availability is a major problem. They are expensive. So what do we need to do? Subsidize these medicines, create more generic production of these medicines, negotiate with global pharmaceutical companies, and understand that in India, the need is to address MDR. Fix undernourishment among the poor people who are taking TB treatment. And only then we can solve this chronic problem of, on the one hand, highest malnourishment, on the other hand, highest TB burden. That's the article. Quickly, the question. It's a very difficult disease. Yeah, that's true, Sitaram. Yeah, that's a new drug. Very good. That's compulsory license. Very good user. Yeah, there is no treatment, Eric, for multi-resistant TB, but now this is the new treatment. The CPALM, CPALM. These 4 drugs can be used for MDR, multi-drug resistant TB. Yes, they can be used, but they are expensive. Availability is a challenge. Now it's curable with all these 4 drugs. That will happen soon. Yes, Saurav, by the use of the CRISPR scissor technology, genome editing technology. It will be possible one day. Okay. Question. Answers are coming. User, Reshma, Ramu. Consider the following statements regarding tuberculosis in India. As per the WHO Global TB Report 25, 1. India recorded the highest decline in TB globally from 2015 to 24. 2. Maharashtra has the highest TB prevalence in India, followed by UP, Bihar. 3. India accounts for highest share of multi-drug resistant TB and rifampicin resistant TB cases. And 4. The BPALM is a new regimen, a combination of 4 drugs, is a new therapy used for treating drug-resistant TB. So all the answers, Dipesh, Sumed, Sangamitra, Ramu, Reshma, User, Rajneesh, Saurabh, Sitaram, Sumed, Kojumba, and Kuldeep. Everyone says the answer is B. Let's quickly verify. Fourth is absolutely correct, which means A and C cannot be correct. Now between B and D, first one says yes, and that's true also. Second is not correct. It is not Maharashtra, but Uttar Pradesh that has the highest burden of tuberculosis. So second is not valid. First is valid, making B the right answer. Beautifully answered. Well done. So we are done with the editorial. Allow me last 2 minutes to quickly summarize these articles. Well answered, Reshma. Well answered, Dishank and Aspirant. Very good, Eric. That's correct. UP is the highest. Yeah. Now, China and Japan are once again having a conflict about Senkaku Island. Time and again, we have seen that China keeps on dominating and doing aggression in the South China, East China, Indo-Pacific Ocean. We know that. Whether it's about Scarborough Shoal with Philippines, whether it was about so many other islands that are under dispute. Today, once again, China has proven that it is not going to stay quiet. China and Japan for a very long time now have been fighting over an island called Senkaku Island. Now, these are also known as the Diaoyu Islands. Unfortunately, there is a controversy. While Japan calls it Senkaku, China calls them Diaoyu Islands. There's a difference in the word for the same island. Now, recently, China's Coast Guard ships were suddenly passing at a fast speed near the waters of Senkaku. This is not to be tolerated by Japan. Recently, Japan has got a new lady prime minister, and this lady prime minister is also very, very clear about anti-China domination. She's highly supportive of Quad. She's highly supportive of US, India, and Australia, South Korea when it comes to combating Chinese expansion. Yes. Very good, Sangamitra. Very important article for IR, GS paper 2, International Relations. Island disputes. Very good. So now China says that since Taiwan is mine. Now let's understand Taiwan doesn't belong to China in reality. Taiwan had achieved long back its own independence. It should be a sovereign place. It's not politically sovereign, but China claims a complete control on that. And because of that, not only Taiwan, but China keeps saying that even across Senkaku Island, I will keep on monitoring. And Senkaku belongs to me. This is a theory that China proposes, that Senkaku should belong to me, whereas Japan says no, it is not the IOU, it is Senkaku and it absolutely belongs to Japan. So in the last few days, China has been monitoring and therefore Japan is on high alert. Remember, Japan is also one country which after Second World War had committed that it is not going to spend anything on military or war. Today, the realities have changed. 2025, looking at China's behavior in the Eastern Hemisphere, Japan has become a country which is now committing that it will upgrade its expenditure on military to at least 3 to 4% of GDP in times to come. And the new Prime Minister is even more strict about it. So let's see how the dispute comes along. I'll quickly show you the map here. This is Senkaku Island. We call it Senkaku because globally we realize that it is not the IOU. It doesn't come under China. So we call it Senkaku only. In reality, it is a disputed island chain. You can see here, it's very near Taiwan. This is Taiwan. This is Senkaku. Here is China. Here is Japan. And therefore, it's a great area for problems between the two. Senkaku. Do not forget the location. Next, once again, GS paper 2 IR, US versus Venezuela. In my Saturday class, I had mentioned that US is conducting an exercise to control drugs and narcotic network in the Caribbean Sea led by Venezuela and Colombia. With that in mind, US has recently launched an operation by which US will now attack various vessels and boats coming from Colombia and Venezuela, which will carry drugs. Because US feels that it is because of these countries that drugs are getting smuggled into America. Which exercise was that? Yes, Reshma, drug menace, Ramu, that's correct. Aspirant, that's correct. But which exercise was that? Remember, I drew something on the board also. And some student was also laughing. I think, who is that? I don't remember the name. And he said that, ma'am, this is looking so small. I said, my board is small, but naturally America is very big. Don't compare. Which exercise was that? America launched recently to control the drug menace in the Caribbean. Very good, aspirant. Exercise Southern Spear. If you remember, I even draw a spear. I know my drawing is pathetic, so students were laughing, but then I thought, okay, it is looking like a diya, but it is actually a spear in my mind. So I had also given you a mnemonic that President Trump is taking the spear and I say hitting at the Venezuela and Colombia border in the south, that don't do drugs, don't send them to America. So it was Operation Southern Spear. Oh, it was Eric said that. Okay, thanks for reminding. Yes, you were laughing at this. It's not looking like a spear, but at least I'm drawing what it comes to my mind. Okay, that's correct. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Southern Spear. Very good, Reshma Ramu, Eric, Aspirant, Sitaram, Sumit. Very good username. Yeah. So under that exercise, America has been trying to attack Colombia Venezuela ship, saying that these carry narcotics, fentanyl, and that's not okay with America because they are smuggled into America, right? So today what has happened? Now America and Trinidad and Tobago. America and a small island nation called Trinidad and Tobago. They are conducting joint military exercises. Venezuela is unhappy about it. Why is Venezuela unhappy about it? I can show you through the map. This is Venezuela, South America. Agreed? Okay. If this is Venezuela, very near Venezuela, hardly a little distance, you find the islands of Trinidad and Tobago. TNG, Trinidad and Tobago. Yes. Now, if it is so near Venezuela and already America is doing Operation Southern Spear, today as America and Trinidad and Tobago are doing new military exercise, naturally Venezuela is concerned. So Venezuela's prime minister has said it is irresponsible behavior by conducting military drills so close to Venezuelan coast. He thinks it is an act of American president trying to capture Trinidad and Tobago in a militarily way so that it can keep on controlling activities near the Venezuela-Colombia border. And that's the conflict all about. Do remember Trinidad and Tobago had obtained independence from UK long back. Long back. But today, there is a massive presence of America in this area because America feels if we are able to have military presence in Trinidad and Tobago, it's an excellent way of keeping an eye on the narcotic drug racket that happens in the southern Latin America, that's Venezuela, Colombia. And now the last one is Bangladesh, GS paper 2 IR. Today, a very important development is going to happen. We all know a political coup has happened in Bangladesh last year, and the ex-prime minister, Miss Sheikh Hasina, she had to escape from there. She was taking a refuge in New Delhi, and still she hasn't gone back. Today, what is happening? International Crimes Tribunal, ICT, International Crime Tribunal, led by Justice Gholam, Mortuza. He is going to give a final verdict on whether the mass killing and genocide that happened in Bangladesh in August 2024, was it done by Sheikh Hasina and her supporters deliberately, or was it purely something that happened without an intention? So that's the order that will be given by ICT today, and therefore Bangladesh is under tension. The sensitive areas have been put under strict monitoring, and a large number of border guards have also been deployed. Why? Because it's a very, very sensitive situation. Today the result will come because Ms. Sheikh Hasina and Mr. Khan Kamal, both of them are accused of mass killings, genocide, attempt to murder. All that happened last year in July and August 2024. She has been accused of violating human rights. So now as the verdict will be clear, there's more clarity that's going to come whether she can go back to her country, whether she will still have to be in New Delhi because situation is not safe. Recently, she also said if elections will not include my party, I will not consider those elections to be logical. That's it. Now, this I can take tomorrow. It's a very small news. I'll take your leave now because I don't want to take so much time of yours. It's just about Manipur and how poppy is being cultivated in Manipur in order to produce more opium. Okay, and government is trying to control that because that also creates a conflict between Meeti and Kuki tribal communities, but that's very small one. So these are the answers here for the day. And now quickly the question. Yeah, it's north of Brazil, Eric. What are we talking about? That's true. Logically, Venezuela is right, yes, because if you have an exercise on somebody's border, they will say something about it. They will say something about it. That's valid. It is South America. Yes, Dipesh. Latin America. That is true. That is true. They can create a debt trap, and they often do that. Countries like China and US are known for debt trap colonialism. They give you a lot of loans, they do infrastructure development. In the end, they come and take away your sovereignty. There's nothing new about it. Okay, thank you so much. It is Diptesh. I'm so sorry, but I wasn't aware of that. Now I will say Diptesh. Okay, my bad. Probably in quick reading, I missed the P in between. I'll call you Diptesh. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, aspirant. Thank you, Diptesh. Thank you, username Reshma, Bulbul. And Bulbul was there. I'm seeing her now. Rahul. Okay, and we have Shamanda, we have Sitaram, of course, he's there. And then all the others are there. Yes, Aspirant is there, Saurav is there, Kojumba is here with us, and Vikash was there, Ramu is there, Iba was there, Dishank, and Aktopam was there, Sanghamitra was there, Sumed was there. I think I've taken most of the names. Okay, so thank you so much. All right. Thank you for the wonderful session. Thank you, Ram. See you tomorrow. God bless you. Okay. All right.